And then you have Canelo against Callum Smith, and by far the most interesting fight of the weekend. It's kind of annoying how people are writing off Callum Smith. It's kind of annoying because, I mean, I live in New York, so it's mostly Americans and I speak to about boxing. And they compare Callum Smith to Rocky Fielding only because they're about the same height, they're both English. But nothing could be further away from the truth. I mean, Rocky Fielding was, just so you know how Rocky Fielding came to his world title to begin with. He got his title from a German kid named Tyron Zeuge. Tyron Zeuge got his world title. No, Tyron Zeuge, before I keep going, he's with Sauerland. Sauerland is a phenomenal promoter in Germany with very close ties to the WBA. Right? So Zeuge got his championship from an Italian guy named Giovanni De Carolis. De Carolis got his world title from Vincent Feigenbutz. Now, you might, especially American fans, might not know De Carolis or Zeuge. They only know Rocky Fielding from the Canelo fight, and they might only know Feigenbutz from the Caleb Plant fight, right? But this Feigenbutz, who lost in a title fight to Caleb Plant, got his title fight from fighting a Peruvian guy who had won 5-rounder, not 4-rounder or 6-rounder, but one 5-rounder in, I think, 2 years. And I remember this because when Feigenbutz actually fought for the title, I couldn't believe that he was mandatory to get that vacant WBA strap. So he fights this Peruvian guy in a fight that clearly didn't have world title level, gets fed an Italian guy to defend with a good record, beats him in a split decision, and then gets knocked out by him in the rematch. So Sauerland gives this title shot to Zeuge because he knows that Zeuge was a youth, I think, amateur gold medalist, guy who had a good amateur pedigree, but is nowhere near world class in the professionals. But Sauerland knows that he can beat De Carolis, which he does. He beats him. And then who does he fight? Rocky Fielding. So Rocky Fielding is supposed to be the opponent of a guy who himself isn't an elite talent, who himself isn't really world class. Rocky Fielding was supposed to lose that fight, and in a close fight ends up stopping Zeuge. So De La Hoya calls Eddie Hearn Sunday morning and is like, yo, Canelo Fielding, let's make it happen. Why? Because De La Hoya knows that a guy like Fielding, I mean, lucky to get that world title shot. Good for him, won it, but knows nowhere near Canelo's class. Canelo knocks him out in 3 rounds, a couple body shots, and now people think that Smith is cut from the same cloth. For those who don't know, Callum Smith fought Rocky Fielding before Canelo fought Rocky Fielding, knocked him out in the first round. Smith won his world title in the final of the World Boxing Super Series, beating a legitimate elite super middleweight in George Groves, who might not have had an elite chin, but was a very, very good fighter, and he was genuinely a world-class super middleweight. Knocked him out in 7 rounds, had a great outing against Hassan Ndam, and then had a bad performance against John Ryder. Another reason why people think that Callum Smith is no match for Canelo is because they say he could barely get past John Ryder, or John Ryder beat him and got robbed. And they compare John Ryder to Canelo. The fact that they are built the same and they are the same height does not mean they are the same fighter. John Ryder is a southpaw pressure fighter. Canelo is an orthodox counterpuncher. Now, Canelo puts a lot of mental pressure on you because he stays in the pocket all the time, but he's nowhere, he doesn't have the same output that John Ryder has. He's not a pressure fighter, right? So, two completely different guys. I do think Canelo beats him because Canelo's just the best 160, 168 pounder on the planet, and he has the most experience against elite guys. But in no way, shape or form is Callum Smith a light fight. In no way, shape or form is Callum Smith an easier fight than David Benavidez or Caleb Plant. I mean, Caleb Plant is fighting Caleb Truax to defend his world title. Caleb Plant has never been in there with a guy like Callum Smith. David Benavidez has one world-class opponent, which was Anthony Dirrell, who's already kind of over the hill when they fought. So David Benavidez against Callum Smith is a 50-50 fight. Caleb Plant against Callum Smith is a 50-50 fight. Canelo against Callum Smith, I would say is a 60-40 fight for Canelo. The way I see this fight, and the way I see it playing down, is I think Canelo's going to start slow, just the same way he did against Kovalev, because Callum Smith presents, the problem that Callum Smith presents are a very good jab, a very, very good short counter left hook, a tight defense, and good, solid footwork. Very, very, very tidy feet. So Canelo is the kind of guy who does almost everything perfect. His head movement is sublime. His reflexes are phenomenal. The dude punches extremely hard, right? He has great ring IQ. What's the one thing that Canelo lacks? The one thing about Canelo that is not just not perfect, but is not even elite, which is his footwork. Canelo's footwork is not bad, but it's very slow. Canelo's upper is extremely fast from the waist up. Very fast hands, great head movement, but slower feet, right? So I personally see Callum Smith jabbing and moving around Canelo. I think that Canelo's going to have a hard time getting in range because of the fact that Callum Smith is so good with his feet. He backs up. And whenever there's such a big range difference that Canelo it's going to take more than one step to get under Smith's jab or under Smith's right hand, right? So it's not like if the reach difference was maybe 2 inches or 3 inches, right, where Smith will jab, Canelo gets under, is already there. It'd be different. But in this case, the reach difference is so big that even if Smith throws that jab, Canelo backing up, right? Canelo coming in under that jab, Smith can still back up before Canelo is in his range. Because Canelo has to take 2 steps. He has to double jab to get in. And Smith, by taking 1 step back, already makes a very, very big, he can create a lot of distance very, very, very fast. So if you add that great counter left hook that Smith has, that is also very short, that he was able to catch Hassan N'Dam with repeatedly and George Groves with repeatedly. Also, same thing. If he jabs, right, Canelo's going to get under the jab. Smith is likely to take a step back, right? And then if Canelo continues to try to come in, By Smith taking that step back, he creates a little bit more distance, but also time. So he has time to see Canelo and to hook off that jab. And I think he's going to do that, especially in the first. The first round I see going very slow. After the first round, I think it's going to be. I believe Smith is going to start to try and go for that left hook, and I think Canelo's going to take it slow, the way he did against Kovalev. Right, but with the difference being, Smith isn't gun shy like Kovalev was. Smith isn't going to pull with his jab. He's not going to throw those lazy jabs that Kovalev was throwing, afraid of Canelo countering him and knocking him out. So Canelo in this fight is presented with the issue: how do I land my shots? Right? How do I get in without getting countered? So I have to get in under a jab, and then I still have to make sure I don't get countered, and then I have to land my own shots. So Canelo now he's gonna actually have to step on the front foot a lot more. I see him putting a lot of mental pressure with his head movement and making small steps forward with his head movement. I think he's gonna start slow. He's gonna go to the body as much as he can. And I see the first half of the fight being very competitive, and I see the second half of the fight going more and more in Canelo's favor. I don't know if Canelo actually stops Smith, but I think it's gonna be a similar fight in terms of the points that Canelo had with Jacobs. I think Smith, because he hasn't been in there with someone who operates at that kind of level, it's gonna be difficult for him to keep up to stay at that level, to operate at that level non-stop. I think, and you see that a lot you saw that with Kell Brook and Terence Crawford a few weeks ago, where it looked like in the beginning it was close, but it was very hard for Brook to keep up, to keep playing at that level. It was very hard. Brook had to keep up. He had to physically make an effort to stay at Crawford's level. Crawford had an extra gear. I think we're going to see the same thing with Canelo and Smith. I think that in the beginning it's going to look close. It's going to be competitive, but it's going to be much harder for Smith to keep up with Canelo than for Canelo to keep up with Smith. And I think after the 6th, 7th round, that's going to start taking a toll, and we're going to start seeing Canelo take over. Smith is a big guy. He's a strong guy. And he knows how to survive. He has great boxing ability. So I personally don't think Canelo stops him. I wouldn't be surprised if he stopped him late after the 9th round. But I'm leaning more towards a unanimous decision for Canelo in the 116, 112 range.